Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. Before I get started, I hate doing this. I hate it, actually. I hate being like, so if you go on your app on your phone, pull down the screen, leave me a review, but please do. I know that you're out there, and there's nothing more frustrating for me is I'm scolding all of you. All my listeners, listen up right now. I'm scolding you because number one, I really like when you reach out to me. Reach out to me at Judging Meghan with an H because I'm the original princess. I spelled it with an H before Katie. Obviously, I'm older than the what Princess Meghan, or she's not a princess. Anyways, I'm babbling. So reach out to me. That's my number one scold for the week. If you're tuning out already, please don't. Also, please, if you're so inclined to leave me a good review, just go to Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. Follow my show. Leave me a review. It takes 2 seconds. I'm so appreciative of all of you. I literally cannot tell each one of you how grateful I am to get your messages. Like it brightens my whole day, actually. It really, truly does. I love hearing from you. So even if it's a message with something negative, I want to hear it. Even though I don't want to hear it, my ego can hopefully not handle it, or it can handle it. Just do that. All right. Usually I tell a story, but I'm so excited about my guest today that I think I'm done. I think I'm not going to babble. And I think the audience will be happy about that when they meet you, Katie. We've all been put here for a reason, and we all deserve acceptance.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.
I'm a trauma survivor from a really young age, and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD in the past few years. I've been surrounded by death and abuse much of my life. I've been dragged through the mud and have been to the point of not wanting to go on anymore. Through my interviews with other survivors, I've learned that there is a way out. From recovering to surviving and thriving, we all have the strength to come out the other side.
You are listening to Judging Meghan.
So Katie Beecher is a licensed professional counselor, a medium, and a medical and emotional intuitive. She has been featured in Goop, Poosh, Core Organics, and more. Her book is called Heal From Within, A Guide to Intuitive Wellness, and it is available right now on Amazon. You can follow her like you're going to follow me if you're not following me at Katie Beecher _medical_intuitive. Did I butcher that, or is that okay?
You did not. No, basically Katie Beecher Medical Intuitive, Instagram, Facebook, and I come up. So pretty
okay.
easy.
Well, I wouldn't think, this is just me like kind of talking off the top of my head. I don't think there's probably other Katie Beecher medical intuitives. No. Am I wrong? And if somebody was, I would be like, that's weird. Change your name. Right? You're the only Katie Beecher that comes up in my book for medical intuitives. Let's start here. So before we started recording, and I was telling her that I had about 5 minutes to get ready. And I was complaining, as I always do, being vain about glasses and my hair and all of that stuff. We started to bond right away. And she told me that she lives in Jacksonville, Florida, which is where my mom lives. So my mom better listen to this episode because she never does. So welcome to the podcast, Katie.
Thank you. I'm trying not to die laughing over here. You're amazing.
I hope that I don't scare people. Sometimes I think when I have guests on that don't know me, which most of them don't before they meet me, I think they're kind of like, in the first couple of minutes, they're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
Definitely not. Definitely
not. Okay, good. It depends on the day. I'm no walk in the park. Okay, so I need to find out. Let's start here. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Okay. So I am, for the last 35 years-ish, I've been a licensed counselor. I'm a medical emotional intuitive, meaning I can look into people's bodies and their energy and their entire lives and tell them often way more than they'd like to know. I'm a medium. I am a 59-year-old competitive pole dancer.
Excuse me? No. This is over. Are you freaking kidding? Not okay. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you are not 59 years old.
I am.
No, you're not.
I am. And there's no filter.
Okay.
I think it's all the exercise I do, and I don't know. So yeah.
You look so young. You look amazing. Also,
Thank
I love
you.
that you do pole dancing. You know what? That's impressive because I can't even touch my toes anymore. So is that just okay? I'm interrupting. So finish. That's shocking to me. Go on. Proceed.
Yes. So everyone always asks me kind of how I got into this. And when I was very, very young, I always felt like there was guidance, a presence, I don't know if it probably was dead people and God and angels and who knows who else, but I just felt like I knew there was more than me around. And thankfully, because I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional home and really needed that support and guidance, And so fast forward a bit, a little bit like your story, I ended up pretty suicidal. I had a plan. I was ready. I had a severe eating disorder and bulimia. As a result of, growing up in my crazy family and being bullied because I was a girl, went through puberty early. So that was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me because I called my pediatrician. He gave me the name of a therapist. She was very, very spiritual. And she showed me how to connect to my intuition and my body, and that it was okay to be this crazy person who talked to dead people. And I didn't have anyone to talk to about that stuff, So it was through that process that I learned all about Jungian psychology and art therapy and using symptoms as messengers instead of being afraid of them, and self-love and self-acceptance and all the things that go with that. So through my recovery, my guides told me that I was supposed to use my experiences to help others and eventually write the book, although, it took about 1 million years. That's okay. And so now I work pretty differently than other people, just with a name and age. I create a 4-page, really extensive report about all aspects of people's lives, so positive and stuff to work on. I create an intuitive soul painting, so it's a symbolic way of delivering information. And then I send that before we meet. During our meeting, we talk about all kinds of things. A lot of things come up that people aren't expecting, especially the relationship between maybe someone's marriage or their job and how it's affecting them physically and the changes that they need to make and all that kind of stuff, as well as physical things.
Can I stop you? I'm notorious for interrupting. And so I just want you to be warned, and my listeners know this about me. I just want to stop you and say I'm so sorry because I also am a recovering bulimic. So we have that in common from a very young age. Yeah. 13. So I started at 13, dysfunctional home, abuse. My father passed away as a kid. All of this stuff, I get all of it. What I love about what you're saying is I'm all about, that's why I do this actually, is turning your pain into purpose. Right. Exactly. And that's what you do. And so I think too, I'm very open to mediums and those feelings, listening to your inner voice. I run from mine still because mine terrifies me, but I wish I could tune into it a little bit better. But I think what you do is just amazing. And also just to make you feel better, my book is never going to be completed. So I understand all of that to a T. Something I do want to ask you though is the minute that somebody says, or you say, oh, I'm a medium, or, oh, I connect with the angels, or I connect with I mean, give me a break. I've been doing this 4 years. My listeners know that have been with me since the beginning. If there are not signs that they're walking among us, like I talk about when somebody loses something, many, many episodes I've done, there's no way. There is no way. So I'm wondering, when you tell somebody what you do, do they immediately like retreat, or are they, I mean, that's always a question I ask somebody that works in the field that you work in.
Most of the time we start off with a nod and they pretend they know what I'm talking about, especially with medical.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, you have no idea what I'm talking about, do you? And they're like, no. And so I talk a little bit about, what it is. And most of the time people are really, really fascinated. You do have the occasional person, like my family members, who I don't talk to anymore, who think that, what I do is satanic and against the Bible, and it couldn't be the more opposite. But most of the time people are super fascinated, and I try to make intuition as non-woo-woo as possible, because we all have it and we all use it, So I try to normalize it so people don't think it's weird. But most people are pretty interested and want to learn more.
But my question is, so when did you when did you really tap into this? So you were saying, like, when you were a kid, were there like noises? Were you seeing people? Was it something you kind of didn't want to tap into? I would love to know that.
Yeah, apparently I always had imaginary friends from whenever, as long as, I don't even know when it started, but that's what I was told. And I do remember having imaginary friends. So I feel like that was my first contact with the other side. And then I remember when I was 3 looking up at my parents when they were having a fight about eggs, and hearing this voice that said, you're basically on your own. These people are not equipped to raise you.
Yeah.
So it was this knowing, this guidance. And then I just had I knew what people were doing. I had a lot of insight. I knew kind of what people were going to say before they said it. And, my parents kind of looked at me like, okay, that's weird, but okay, whatever. And then when I was around 10, when The Exorcist came out, which tells you how old I am, I started to just feel really negative energy all the time. And it was really terrifying. I felt like it was coming from our old house. It was actually coming from my family. And this does get a little woo-woo. Eventually I figured out that good and evil do exist. And so these negative forces, if you were trying to make me afraid and make me different from the person that I was going to be, who was going to spread love and help people. So my therapist helped me.
Was it the actual was it just like a warning, do you think? Or was it, I'm just curious about that. Because I think that people can tap in to both as
absolutely.
well. I mean, I just think that's part of life. Right.
It is. It is. I feel like it was actually negative forces, like the opposite of love. So I'm going to go with hate, trying to make me afraid to connect with myself, to trust myself, to trust my intuition. And it added to like the self-esteem problems and feeling like I wasn't safe, which adds to eating disorder stuff,
Mm-hmm. Also being bullied. You said you were bullied. So that, yeah.
Exactly. So it's very isolating. And I ultimately believe that we are in control of our energy. So no one can get to us. No negative stuff can actually get to us unless we're in some sort of altered state, like from drugs or severe mental illness or whatever. So it was a very empowering experience, ultimately. But good and evil does exist,
Well, I think for sure it does. I mean, that's part of being a human being. We're not, nobody is all good. It's just,
exactly.
if they were, they wouldn't be here. Right.
Right.
And that's something like I grapple with. I have a lot of anger still and a lot of like hate that I deal with.
Okay.
And I'm trying my best to lose it, but I'm human. And when people tell me, oh, I don't, like I've forgiven everyone and I'm this way. And I have a hard time believing them. I know that, not everybody agrees with that, but I'm just not there. So
Sure.
I wonder what you think about that.
I think that we all deal with grief and trauma in our own way. And I think that anger can be a very important part of that process because it teaches us what we don't want to repeat and what we want to stay away from. And it can help us take action because if you're so angry, you're like, I want nothing to do with those people. It can be a very motivating force. I think sometimes that anger gets turned inward because you think, did I do enough? Could I have done something different? Looking back and regretting that. And when you have anger towards yourself, it's almost a way of feeling like you have some control, because if you actually look at the other people involved, then you kind of feel helpless. So it can be a way of trying to control things,
Because they say at the root of all hate is love. That's what a saying that people say. And I'm always like, I don't know about that, but I am curious, like how how you feel on that. And then I'm kind of going to root into a totally separate area, but I would love to know your answer on that.
I think that when we love people, we are most vulnerable to being hurt, because if you don't really care, then it's harder to hurt you. So I think in that way, there is a relationship, between love and hate, that intensity of feeling, and toward those people who are supposed to love you. And so who you give your love to, especially as a kid, and you trust them and you think like, I'm supposed to be safe with these people. So that betrayal at your very core, I think certainly creates very real anger. And sometimes, like, what helped me was accepting that these people had mental illness and whatever was going on with them was going on with them, and it does not excuse their behavior. That it wasn't about me, and that I could decide to raise my children differently.
Okay. I know that I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but like when we went there, I was like, God, I need to know your answer on this. Okay. So explain to me and my listeners what a medical intuitive is, because you're the first one I've ever met.
Oh, nice.
And you had me at hello, by the way.
So I started off as a therapist, and I would allow my intuitive guides to come into the sessions, tell me things about my clients, tell me what I needed to tell them. I knew things about their lives, so physical, emotional, and spiritual things about their lives, and what they needed for me to be able to help them. So now I've taken it that much further, and I am able to, from anywhere in the world, by the way, just know things about people, like, yes, physical and emotional symptoms, but also things like any kind of trauma, where in their body things were being stored, how they were being related, what their relationships are like, traits about them, like, are they empathic? Are they sensitive? Are they happy in their job, or are they miserable? So it's literally a zillion different things, because I am very into root cause healing and wellness. So meaning anything in a person's life now or in the past or the future that impacts them is relevant and is important. So
Do you just like see someone, like right now you see me? I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you want to say, do you just see someone and you go, oh, this is what's wrong with you, that kind of stuff? Are you able to see someone and be like, you're going to die in a year? Like what? Break it down. I hope I'm here for a while.
Yeah, no, good question.
Okay.
So I get somebody's name and age online. That's all the information I get. The less I know about them, the better. Because if I know them, I start assuming or thinking things. And that's not what I want to do. So I kind of tune into them, start my template for my report, and just ask my guides to tell me things. And my templates are arranged by chakras, which are energy centers in the body, and they break up every part of a person, emotionally, physically. So I start with the 7th chakra, which to me is an overview. And I just keep filling in my boxes, about a person. So I kind of get everything at once. So it's physical, emotional, spiritual, kind of the whole time, whatever they think is important for me to know. And if I had this turned on all the time, I'd be more neurotic than I am. Yeah. So, I have to, I think that's why I do the reports before I meet with people, because I can have my own kind of quiet time. And then while I'm with the person, my guides are on again and they get tons more information. Like when I tune into you, I'm getting chest and throat to start with. And then there's just a lot of tightness in your chest and a hurting heart. And even like the neck too, that your neck is affected. And then I'm also feeling like there's been issues with your 2nd chakra, which is female reproductive area. I get very, 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 very personal. So I am reluctant to, say a lot because this is your business. But it gets really, really personal. So
that's okay. Go for it.
Yeah.
I will say right away, you're right on point, but keep going.
Yeah, no. And I feel like there's been some interesting stuff in that 2nd chakra. Some loss, some things that you did that you didn't necessarily want to have to do, but were necessary. I can tell you more later.
Yeah.
But and I think that part of the reason you're holding on to this trauma is because it's a distraction from getting to know yourself and really finding that self-love and acceptance for the human that you are. There tends to be perfectionistic stuff, so it's kind of hard to admit that you're a human, and even scarier if other people can see it, even though you're very open here,
It's like everything you're saying is insane because it's all true. By the way, I just had a hysterectomy 4 months ago. My listeners know that. And I've been Tim Braun. He's a medium in Orange County in LA. He's been on the podcast. So I'm very open to this stuff, but I told him, because I had a friend years ago, I might have told this story on the podcast before. I've always had issues with my neck. And I believe in Reiki and all this stuff. I've done it. I believe in the chakras. Reiki is life-changing, listeners. If you're struggling with stuff, it really helped me. But years ago, Lindsay Carroll, if you're listening, college friend, went to a renowned psychic in New York. Her mom, I guess, sent her to this psychic. And she said in her past life, she was strangled, talking about me. And my friend was like, that's so weird. Because my friends know my close friends, like from college and boarding school, know I always have had this weird thing. My husband knows it with my neck. So it's so interesting you say that, because it's true. So all of that makes sense. And the perfectionism, 100%, I got it from my mom. She's like that too, and she'll never admit it, but she's 80. And if you saw her now, She does not look 80. It's a genetic thing. We're all vain and want to be perfect in our family. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I actually, with your neck, I actually saw like hard lines on the side of your neck, almost like my guys are saying, like wood, like almost like tree trunks on the side of your neck. Like that's how hard and stiff it is.
Wow.
So not exactly sure, what everything means when I get the information. I just
I also, vanity aside, and my listeners are going to be like, "Are you joking?" I also had threads in my neck. So that's why. Don't ever do it. It's so painful. Anyway, that's kidding aside. I had to say that, but yeah, I mean that all makes sense. I believe in all of this stuff that you're talking about. And it's crazy that you have the ability to do that.
It is crazy. And people ask me how, and I honestly don't know. I'm just open to it. And when I talk to pets, it's super cool too, because animals give me so much information about their owners, right?
They do. I'm a huge animal person. Wow. I love that.
It's the coolest thing. Like, I don't know anything about horses, but I've learned so much about horses by reading them. And they're so human. And I mean, they all are, but it's just, I don't know how I can do all this. I just feel like everything that I've experienced in my life, even all the like crappy stuff, they just keep telling me I'm a human guinea pig for them, because the more I learn.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like floored by the things you're talking about because it's so interesting. So when you say your guides, can you see them? Are they different? Are they like of this world? Because I'm one of those people that's on the fence about past lives, but so I don't understand. I don't even know what I think about it, but I do believe in it, but I don't know how it works. So tell me about who the guides are and kind of like what you see.
Great question. Some people see them. I can see an image of them in my head. I don't see their faces. I don't know their names, but I know one of them is somebody, a Native American tribal chief, person, male. And I know there's an older, maybe Latino woman, maybe Aztec-y or somebody like that. And then a younger one. And then my grandma, both my grandparents, and my mom. And when I look at my guides, I see a half table. Like I'm sitting in the middle of this half circle table, and there's just lines and lines and lines, like rows and rows and rows of them. And I think we all have an army of guides. And it's not important to know their names or, just know that they're there and we are protected and we're a lot safer than we think we are.
You think that, like, even for somebody, like, so say somebody comes to you and can you right away, I could talk to you, this could be a 5-hour podcast. It won't be, don't worry. But it could be. When somebody comes to you and do you ever get like, this is not a good person, like a bad vibe kind of feeling. And then that must be kind of scary. Like, tell me about that. I'm so intrigued. This is so interesting to me.
Real quick about your question about, do you know someone's going to die and all that kind of stuff? Like,
yes,
no. I'm really careful about what I tell people because I don't want to scare anyone. I cannot diagnose. That's freaking irresponsible. There are people who do this work who do it so irresponsible and unethical. And like, I would never tell someone they've been sexually abused. I don't want anyone substituting my intuition for theirs. It's, confirming things. So I wanted to say that. So I have a very accurate evil person meter, if you will, including some government officials that I've encountered in person. I've like been repelled to the other side of the room. It was a little nutty. Used to live in Connecticut. I'll just say that. But I've always had that radar for some like really negative energy. And thankfully it has not happened very often, but I remember vividly when it has. And again, thankfully, people who contact me tend to be neutral beings or very, good beings, humans, regular people with good and bad. So fortunately, I have not had that experience with clients. But I can definitely be like, wow, you've got to set some boundaries, or you really need to change the trajectory of your life, or you're operating all in fear, or I get overall feelings as well as very detailed stuff.
So do you get like if you're reading somebody, so I'm assuming that when people come to you, they may know that there's something wrong with their body or something, and they're trying to like come to you. Am I right on that?
That is often the case. They are having symptoms. They either know or do not know the cause, or they don't know the root cause. They've been maybe told diagnoses that aren't true or maybe true. And then you have people who maybe are just having vague symptoms who want help with their relationship or connecting to intuition or life purpose, and the sessions, I try to make them really fun and comprehensive, and it gets into everything. But oftentimes somebody will come to me with certain symptoms, and the conversation will go in a lot of different directions that they weren't expecting. Because my guides will bring up, oh, this relationship, this person in is really not healthy or needs boundaries. And they want me to, sometimes people want me to say, you can take this herb, you can do this, you can do that. And then you can leave your relationship. And you can't be healthy in a dysfunctional setting. So, but I also understand how hard it is to make changes, and you don't get divorced in a day. So I try to be very practical also and be like, let's think of practical steps you can take toward this goal, and meet people where they're at.
So when you have somebody that comes in and they're not open to it, what is that? What do you do in those experiences?
Fortunately, most people who contact me are at least open to what I do. Right. Okay. So that is helpful. Or they've read my book, which is helpful, or something like that. But I do get people who are resistant, and thankfully being a therapist for 35 years really helps with that, because to say things in a kind, compassionate, but honest way. I worked with somebody semi-recently who had a child that was really, really taking advantage of them. And it was a bad situation. And they just felt very, very trapped and very resistant, And so I had to gently but forcefully be like, I can't tell you what to do, but this is really what I'm getting. And, can you be open to some of this? And they were. It's just that change is really, really scary and hard.
So when you decided to finally do the book that you said took you forever to do, is the book, because I haven't read it, but I'm going to, my listeners know I usually don't always, and we're very last minute, you and I. Right. Like, I think you sent me a message. I love this kind of stuff. So anytime I have the chance to meet somebody like you and get you on, I'm always like, what? And I'm booked out like through September, but I was like, I'm just going to do like 3 in a week so I can get Katie on. So tell me what what you actually like, the beginnings of the book and like the bones of the book. And so if somebody's reading it, obviously you're talking about your trauma and building into like why you are where you are today, but can you give me like kind of a synopsis of the book? Tell my listeners about it.
Yeah. So when I was recovering, when I was 16, my guides said to me, with self-love, self-acceptance, you can heal from just about anything. That is the theme of my life, of my book, of what I teach. And so they're like, you need to write a book not only about your experience to show people, please do not end your life. Things do get better. Here's some things to help you connect to your intuition. Here's my story you can relate to. So I literally teach people how to connect to intuition, how to connect to their bodies, how to identify their issues and strengths, broken down into chakras. So it's little bite-sized pieces and parts of the body and things. And so you can look at what chakras you've had issues in, for example, as a unit. And then you look at how they relate to each other, because we're not just one chakra, we're all connected. And so it's things like, I always start off with a healing story, an experience with one of my clients. What are the emotional and spiritual and physical characteristics of the chakra? How do they relate to you? What are some things like affirmations, little quizzes in there about what are your characteristics, what chakra do they go to? Because how are you supposed to know this stuff? And then it's kind of like, my husband calls it Katie Beecher, the home game, because I give people a blank template and they can create their own medical intuitive report for them based on all the information in the book. And then the end is like a bunch of different stuff, there's a lot of Lyme disease in there because I'm healed from Lyme, but they can look up different things in there and see some stuff that they can do. But the reason I ended up finally writing it after decades was I like to look at symptoms in your body as, instead of looking at them as problems and something to fear, even though of course you want to heal, to listen to them and learn from them and talk to them and stuff. So when I found out I had Lyme, which I had since I was a kid and didn't know it, at first I got scared, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be a patient. I'm going to talk to this and see what this is about, just like my eating disorder. And my guide said, if you want to heal, you need to write the proposal for the damn book we've been telling you needed to write since you were 16. And I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Because I didn't know how to do that. But I'm like, all right, I trust you. I want to heal. I want to get better. So, 8,000 iterations later, we did that, and I have a book, and, it got published and things. But so, it's a little bit of a love letter to myself and my guides and inspiration for others.
I love that you are just so honest and transparent about why you wrote the book and the guides and all that stuff. Cause I think for some of my listeners, by the way, when you were talking, I was like, does everybody know what a chakra is? And I don't think we explained that in the beginning. So can you explain for somebody that doesn't understand what what the chakras are,
Sure.
what they are, so we can kind of break that down? Cause I was thinking that when you were talking.
Yeah, I said they're energy centers in the body, but that doesn't really tell people what they are.
Yeah.
So they're, this could be a 10,000 podcasts, but it is little. So if you go up and down the body, up and down the spine, there's 7. There's a lot of chakras, but there's 7 main chakras. And chakras are they really are little circular energy centers that are supposed to be spinning a certain way, although I couldn't tell you which way they're supposed to be spinning. And if each one is balanced, if you're listening, if you're doing the stuff you need to do, then energy can flow freely throughout your body. So up and down your spine and where it needs to go. So it's kind of like a chi type of thing. And let's say for your purposes, you've had issues, trauma, things like that in that second chakra. Well, the first chakra it's the root chakra. So it's basic human needs and, living, breathing, whole body, things like that. Like, am I going to survive? Am I going to be okay? And then that second chakra is about relationships, money, reproductive health, things like that. So let's say you have a lot of trauma in that second chakra or any chakra, and that one is kind of blocked. There's a lot of fear. There's resistance. And the body responds with physical and emotional symptoms. If you do not get your issues treated for example, your growth, your development as a person can stop at a certain age when that trauma happened. And so the more that you are aware of the issues that you need to deal with, and it doesn't mean perfection because we're always a work in progress, dear God, right?
Yeah.
But if you can be aware, open, not immersed in fear, then you're more likely to have that energy flow going around your body, to have that spiritual and emotional development, things like that. Like the throat chakra is about self-expression a lot of the time. And maybe you can't express yourself verbally because that's really scary. And if you're smart, you can outsmart your words. But there's symbolic ways to express yourself through movement or art, or that's why I do, the intuitive soul paintings, because it's through art. So I get to listen a different way and teach people a different way.
I think it's so fascinating. I also want to touch on, because like I said, this could be 5 hours. And I'm probably skipping ahead, but in the beginning, when you shocked me with your age, but also that you do pole dancing at 59 years old. Can you talk about that? Because we just kind of like dropped that. I was like, oh, me too. But no, I want to know about that too.
I would love to. It's one of the best things I've ever done for myself. And I believe that if you enjoy what you're doing, especially movement, you will do it more. And our culture, movement is so tied into diet culture and how many calories you've had and what you weigh. And dear God, that is so non-motivating in a healthy way. So I did gymnastics when I was young. And I happen to have Ehlers-Danlos, which is a hypermobility disorder, but that's a whole other podcast. And so I always looked for something like adult gymnastics that I could move my body. I would enjoy it. And they don't have that, right? So my daughter started to do pole sport, pole dancing. And I was like, okay, that looks really fun. And the first time I tried it, I must admit, I took 3 classes and said, this is too hard. And I gave up. And then I watched what she was doing. I'm like, no, I want to go back. So I do pole sport and aerial arts, which is like a lyra hoop. So I do weird things with my body. And it's one of the best things I've ever done. I feel better about my body than I ever have. You have to basically wear a bikini in front of other people because you have to stick to the pole. I know, right? And my family jokes that, oh, you would have been caught dead in one of those, right? But now I'm just like, I want to do my pole and I want to get stronger and I want to have fun. So I'm not as self-conscious at all anymore. I'm really strong. That's where I met my friends when we moved to Jacksonville. I didn't know anybody. And for someone with an eating disorder history to be like, wow, I like my body. I like the strength. It still isn't perfect. I weigh more than when I did when I started because I have a lot of muscle. So it was adjusting, right? But it's, I think, one of the best things that people can, especially women, can do for themselves. You get permission to be sexy if you want. You learned how to move your body, so it's just awesome. And I'm competing
go ahead. Sorry, I talked over you. Go ahead.
I competed in 2022 in a national competition in Orlando, and I won in my age group. Actually, I won against a 40-year-old. That was kind of neat. And then I am competing again this year in the same competition. So.
Oh my God. And also do people, because when they say pole dancing, you automatically think stripper. It's not like that anymore. It's a real class. I mean, years ago when I moved to LA, some movie came out and I feel like everybody was like, we're doing a pole class, but that's not what it is now. It's more of like getting in touch. I'm sure it is getting in touch with like your physical like appearance and all of that stuff, but it is a really hard workout. I remember doing it once and I couldn't walk for like 4 days afterwards.
Yes.
Literally. And I've run marathons and that was one of the hardest classes I've ever taken in my life.
No, it's very hard. I tell people just to keep going. you start off with beginners. So you build your skills, you build your strength. You can do the sexy part of it if you want. I get out of my comfort zone and I take a sexy heels class. I am, awkward as hell. But I do it to get out of my comfort zone, and it's fun, so it's good to laugh at yourself. But yeah, it's very hard. And I actually reversed bone loss from doing pole. So that was kind of neat.
So, but that's such a great thing to talk about, because I do podcasts about like aging and perimenopause and menopause. One of the biggest, and I know we're getting off topic, but I do believe all of this stuff is connected.
It is.
Like mind, body, spirit. It's a trifecta. So if you're working on your insides and understanding your medical health, you have to be working on your outside as we age, the muscle mass, all of that stuff, which, by the way, I've been dropping the ball on and need to get back into. But like my mom's 80 years old. I talked about her in the beginning, and she does Pilates 5 days a week.
Yeah.
She's been, you see her, there's no way people think she's 80 years old, because she really takes the time and she's found, like you, something that she loves to do. She loves Pilates. When she was out here, she was saying, "Oh, I miss my class." So it sounds like you kind of feel that way, and you exude this like light, just so you know, just for what you do, but also like being healthy and all the things that you exude this like beauty physically, but also it just exudes from probably being so healthy with what you do. So I had to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, I go to class 6 to 8 hours a week, and I have a pole at home. So it's a little addictive, but in a good way. And I had osteopenia for 10 years. They didn't know what it was. I know what it is now, but it's reversed. My bone, density is in normal range now.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. So all of this is in the book. It's all connected. I'm sure you touch on all of this. Like I said, I could talk to you forever, but for my listeners that are listening right now, I know we've kind of been all over the place this episode, but it's also because I find you so fascinating. Can you kind of just, if somebody was interested in coming and seeing you, and they have a history of, trauma, or they're trying to get past some kind of like, physical abuse, mental abuse, whatever they're dealing with in life. What is like the number one thing that you tell people before they decide to reach out to you?
I like to tell people to have an open mind, to not be afraid, because I try to make the process as loving and accepting as possible, and that I don't tell people what to do. I'm always honest, but it's important that I teach them how to connect to their intuition. I don't want them substituting mine for theirs, as accurate as it is, and to be open to the information, that they get. And to think about root cause healing. So all of the different things in life that may be impacting you positively and negatively, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And it's a starting point. We usually can get a ton done in one session. So, it's not like you need 10 of them. There are people I meet with every month, but we can get a lot done just in one session.
And where can people purchase your book? I said Amazon. Is that the main place?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you can have your local bookstore order it. It's pretty much everywhere. So
I actually want to schedule an appointment with you like offline, because I know that you touched on stuff that I already can tell that I want to find out more about. I find you so fascinating. I'm so grateful that you found me and you reached out to me and we were able to meet today. For my listeners, again, if they want to follow you, can you just give your little places that they can find you?
Yes. So the easiest place to start is katiebeecher.com, Beecher. And all my socials are attached to that. So that's probably the easiest. But if you go to Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the things, Facebook, and just put in Katie Beecher Medical Intuitive. You will find me.
Okay. Thank you, Katie, so much. It was so wonderful to meet you. Everyone, thank you for listening. Keep going. You matter. Your story matters. Thanks, Katie.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.